Jury is present and seated. Everyone else may be seated at this time. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, good afternoon. Welcome back. I trust everyone had a nice lunch. I do apologize again for any delays in getting started. I take full responsibility for that. We thank you greatly for your time and your patience with me, since I'm taking full responsibility for that. We are going to pick up where we left off, but before we begin, I want to ask whether any of you had any exposure to anything related to this case outside of the courtroom, or discussed this case amongst yourselves or with anyone else by show of hands. Excellent. Let the record reflect there are no hands. I also want to remind you all the importance of paying attention in the courtroom. And if anytime anyone is tired or needs any additional breaks, please don't hesitate to let me know. We can accommodate that absolutely by either letting you stand up in the courtroom or taking a break where you go out. And if you need to get coffee or anything, please don't hesitate to let me know. Don't be shy. Your comfort is really high up on my priorities, but you got to tell me. So thank you all again for everything. We're going to turn to the state, and you may proceed.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Patel, let's pick back up. We're going through the crime scene photos from the front porch. Now, is there a time when you take photographs prior to putting down evidence markers?
Yes.
Do you take photographs after the evidence markers are down?
Yes.
Showing you State's Exhibit 6A. Now we see these numbered yellow markers in this photograph. Are those your evidence markers?
Yes.
Now we still have the styrofoam cups in place. Why is that?
I left them in place so as I do go closer into the crime scene and do close-up photography, that's when I will relocate them and move them.
State's Exhibit 7. And if you need me to go back to any of the other photographs for reference, let me know. Where did evidence marker 1, where was that located?
The second step of the porch steps.
All right, so I'm going to show you 6A again. First step here.
Correct.
Fair to say as we go through these photographs, we're going to kind of just be walking ourselves up the porch and then through the porch.
Correct.
All right. What are we looking at in this photograph next to evidence marker 1?
A spent Winchester .45 caliber casing.
Are you photographing it where you found it?
Yes.
Was there a styrofoam cup that was over this?
Correct, yes.
Once that cup's picked up, was that what we find under it?
Correct.
State's Exhibit 8. Where is evidence marker 2?
It's next to a spent caliber shell casing on the third step of the front porch.
On the left or right hand side of those steps if you are standing in front of the home looking at it?
Right side.
Did you say the head stamp on both of those?
Winchester.
State's Exhibit 58A, and I'm going to draw your attention down here to the bottom to the evidence marker 23. What's the purpose of that evidence marker?
We located a partial footwear impression, so it's next to the partial impression.
Do you do anything with that partial shoe impression?
I photographed it, and a casting was taken of the shoe cast.
Okay, so let's quickly talk about what a casting is.
It's much like if you go to the dentist and they're taking a mold of your teeth, the same kind of material, dental stone mixed with water, make it like a pancake-like texture. You pour it onto the surface of the dirt area that's surrounding the impression and let it dry, depending on the temperature, the ambient temperature surrounding it. Sometimes they'll dry quicker, sometimes it will take longer. In a hotter environment, the casting will dry quicker. In a cooler, moisture environment, the casting will take a little bit longer.
Does that create an impression of whatever was on the ground?
Correct. It'll create a 3D impression.
Okay. 58B. What are we looking at here?
That is the partial footwear impression in dirt right on the west side of the front porch in the dirt area with a scale and marker number 23.
Scales to give you reference measurement?
Correct.
State's Exhibit 18. Now I want to focus your attention down here, really in the middle of this photograph. What are we looking at here?
This is now the west side of the porch with the siding removed.
So let me stop you for a second. If we're looking at the home, standing in the road, is this the right or the left side?
The right side.
So right side on the side of the front porch?
Correct.
Is this how you all found that front porch?
Once we removed the paneling.
Okay, so let me back up a little bit. Was there paneling along the bottom below the decking?
Correct, yes.
Why is that removed?
We were trying to look for any kind of potential evidence that might have fallen down onto the ground level underneath the porch.
Prior to removing the paneling on the side of the porch, while either yourself or law enforcement's up on top of that porch, are you able to see items of evidence that potentially could have gone through that decking?
We couldn't see any particular item, but we could see cracks that would allow for items to have fallen through.
Once you all remove the paneling from the side of the porch, do you take photographs underneath the porch?
Yes.
State's Exhibit 20. Is this a different area of the front porch where that paneling was removed?
Yes, this is now, if you're looking at the front porch facing it, it's still the right side, but it's the front end of the front porch. Next to the steps.
That's what I was going to ask you. When we're looking at the left side of this photograph, is that the steps?
Yes.
So if we're standing in the road, this is to the right of the steps?
Correct.
And then I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 18 again. Would we be continuing around the right side of that front porch?
Yes.
State's Exhibit 21. I'm going to show you this and then we're going to zoom in on it. What are we looking at here?
Okay, this is underneath the front porch, and there is a spent shell casing in the photograph.
Do you want to stand up and point to it, or do you want me to zoom in?
I can point to it.
Okay, go ahead.
There's actually two spent casings right here next to a blue paper, and then this one right here.
Where are those spent cartridge casings in relation to the decking of the porch?
On the west side of the porch.
So in the areas where we were just looking at in the last two photographs where you've removed the paneling, where are these spent cartridge casings in relation to that removes siding?
So if we divide the porch in threes, let's say we'll do the front porch step, we'll consider the steps as the center. Then on the left side, we'll say it's the east side or the left side, and on the right side is your west side. I would consider this on the west side of the front porch, in the center area of that particular portion.
Did you collect, and we're going to get to what you collected in a second, but did you collect those two cartridge casings?
Yes.
State's Exhibit 19. Where are we in this photograph?
On the right side of the front porch.
When we're looking at the steps to the front porch, right side in the front or down the side?
Down the side.
So further down the side than the last photograph, or two photographs ago? Let me show you. State's Exhibit 18.
It's the same side.
Closer up photograph.
Closer up photograph.
In this photograph, can you see an item of evidence that you collected?
Yes.
All right, so point to it with that ruler if you'd like, and then we'll go to a closer photograph.
Towards the center of the photo.
And you're down into the dirt area underneath the porch, more towards what would be the back of the photograph in the dirt area.
Correct.
All right. 19A. What are we looking at here?
Mid-range photograph of the casing in the previous photograph.
Same photograph, same case. Well, not same photograph, but same casing.
Yes.
Show me in this photograph where it is. And you're pointing to almost dead center of the photograph?
Correct.
All right. 16. Now, before we get into kind of what's up closer on the porch, is this standing on the porch looking out back towards the road?
Yes.
Over here to the right-hand side, what is that wood material we're seeing on the ground?
That's the steps of the front porch.
What are you photographing in this photograph?
The overall location of another spent casing relocated.
Show us where that one is.
You cannot see it in this photograph, but it will be right here in the following photograph.
And then I'll show you 17. Do you see that spent cartridge casing in this photograph?
No, we put the evidence marker there, and then as you get closer, we'll look at what.
And now 17A. Go ahead. Yep.
Right there next to the marker number, in the crevices of the beam and the porch landing.
And then do you recall, without looking at some of your other evidence, which we can get to in a second, do you recall the head stamp on this cartridge casing?
Winchester .45 caliber.
.56C. And before I show this photograph, were there up-close photographs of Mr. Geektron taken prior to his body being removed from the porch?
Yes.
And were some of those his face and up-close of his body?
Yes.
56C. Was this necklace photographed where it was found?
Yes.
I'm going to ask you the same questions regarding items on his hands. 56B. Were the rings photographed as found?
Yes.
State's Exhibit 56. Were you taking overall photographs of Mr. Geetron's body prior to being removed with evidence markers?
Yes.
Were one of those evidence markers marking a watch?
It's his entire body,
Okay.
just to document any items of evidence that were collected off of him.
State's Exhibit 56. And is that the photograph you took?
Yes.
Was there a close-up photograph of his left hand with a ring and a watch?
Yes.
State's Exhibit 56A. And was that the photograph?
Yes.
During your processing, was Mr. Geetron's body ultimately removed from the porch so you could continue your work?
Yes.
Once his body was removed from that location, was the decking of the porch underneath his body removed?
Yes.
Showing you State's Exhibit 22. So let's talk about this picture. What's the significance of removing the decking?
We located another piece of evidence underneath, so we removed the decking in order for me to be able to take the photograph and also retrieve the item.
And before we move to other photographs, I want to point out some things here that we're going to go to in other photographs later on. I want to draw your attention to the window, to the rail, and to the framing and the wall. Why are there pieces of yellow tape there?
There's a hole in the window, and then there's two holes in the exterior paneling of the north wall of the north bedroom, and then there was a mark on the wooden beam, so we were documenting those anomalies.
Safe to say, if we're seeing a piece of yellow tape or a yellow evidence marker, it's something that has been brought to your attention or you're bringing it to law enforcement's attention.
Correct.
Okay. State's Exhibit 23. What are we looking at here?
We're looking at the area that was previously, the paneling that was removed, that was almost underneath the decedent.
Are you able to see any items of evidence on the ground under the decking that you would have photographed?
I will be able to see it in the next close-up photograph.
State's Exhibit 24. Do you see it here?
Yes.
And is State's Exhibit 24 the close-up of State's Exhibit 23?
Correct.
All right. What are we looking at in 24?
Towards the center of the photograph, it's a projectile.
Okay. Projectile
Correct.
as compared to a cartridge casing.
Correct.
Would you, well, let me ask it this way. What is a cartridge casing and what is a projectile?
The cartridge casing is the outer encasing that holds the projectile, holds the bullet.
Different parts of ammunition.
Different part of a bullet.
Okay.
And so when a firearm is shot, the projectile and the casing separate.
Now, State's Exhibit 44. Before we look at this photograph, when medical personnel are conducting life-saving efforts, do they tend to leave behind medical equipment, debris, things like that?
Yes.
Are you familiar seeing that on crime scenes?
Yes.
In this photograph, State's Exhibit 44, do we see life-saving material next to Mr. Guitron's body? I'll show you the photograph.
Yes.
This is what I'm referring to here.
Yes.
Now, when we're looking at this photograph, do you have items of evidence, clothes, shoes, things like that, marked with evidence markers?
Yes.
Are all of those items being marked in place where they're found?
Yes.
Nothing's been touched, and collected, or moved at this point.
No.
We discussed this a little bit earlier. State's Exhibit 36. Is this a close-up of that window and kind of the railing on that porch?
Yes.
What's your purpose in taking this photograph?
A mid-range photograph showing the mark that was on the beam.
And is that the mark right here under above that yellow tape?
Yes.
Now, there's evidence marker 21 in the window. What's that?
There was a projectile found on the interior side of that window in the windowsill, and it's marking that particular evidence.
Do you take close-up photographs from actually the inside of the house at a later point?
Yes.
State's Exhibit 25, and my focus here is going to be on working our way into the interior of the home over here and then down to the left side of the patio or porch. Have you worked your way now almost back to what you called the middle of the porch?
Yes.
All right. So then let's go to the left side of the porch. State's Exhibit 43. So in relation to the steps on the front porch, what are we looking at here?
This is the left side of the porch now, with evidence markers next to various pieces of items that were collected.
Like before, all of that's been marked in place.
Yes.
Nothing's been touched or moved at this point.
Correct.
We see an evidence marker inside the home. Do you find items of potential evidence inside the home once you make it in there?
Yes.
All right. All right, I'm going to jump back a little bit. These got kind of out of order. So we're going to jump back to the right side of the patio, of the porch real quickly. State's Exhibit 33. Do you want me to give you an overall for reference on this photograph?
No, I'm familiar.
Okay. So what are we looking at here?
This is the paneling of the exterior of the home removed to look at the look behind the two holes that were seen by the yellow scales.
And did those holes mean anything to you in terms of how you're conducting your investigation?
We were trying to think if those were possible bullet strikes.
Did you remove the paneling and find anything in the wall, for lack of a better word, of the home?
No.
Now let's look at the strike marks down here a little bit lower. Do you end up moving decking there, or are you able to see everything you need from your vantage point here?
We were able to see everything there.
When we go to the left side of the porch, do you end up removing decking from over there and siding from the home?
Just decking.
So if we're looking at any paneling that's been removed, it's going to be from the, or siding, it's going to be from the right side of the home, west side.
Correct.
31, is that before the siding's removed?
Correct.
Okay, and then 30, is that exterior of that window we saw earlier?
It's, yes.
It's still on the outside of the house?
It's, yes. No, yes, from the outside of the house looking in to the bedroom.
$34. Tell me if you need one of the overalls to give you perspective.
Nope, we're still on the right side of the house, right where the paneling was removed.
32. Close-ups?
Yes, close above those two holes.
35. What are we looking at here?
There's a projectile right underneath the area where the two holes were in the wall panel.
So give me some perspective, and I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 32 again. Is State's Exhibit 32 above State's Exhibit 35?
It's below.
I said that poorly. The siding that we're looking at in State's Exhibit 32, is that up on the house?
Yes, correct.
And now have we gone down below the porch?
Yes, correct.
In State's Exhibit 35?
Correct.
So when we're looking at State's Exhibit 35, are you standing on the porch taking a picture facing straight down?
Yes.
Okay. $35A. Is that the projectile you were referring to?
Yes, close up.
So when we're looking at this picture, give us some perspective where we are on the porch and where you're standing to take that picture.
I'm standing right above the paneling that was removed, right underneath the 2 holes that were located on the north wall of the bedroom.
Are
I'm
you...
looking straight down.
I interrupted you. Are you up against the house?
Yes.
$39. Have we moved to a different location on the patio or on the porch?
Yes, we're towards the center of the porch now.
And what are you looking at here?
We removed the paneling, and there's a spent casing that was located on the ground level.
40. What are we seeing here?
A mid-range photograph with the Winchester .45 caliber spent casing close by the rake.
Do you see it in this photograph, the cartridge casing? Do you take an up-close photograph of that? And I think you said the head stamp, but what was the caliber?
45.
And I'm showing you State's 40A. Is that a close-up of that cartridge casing?
Yes.
$37. Before we talk about what we're looking at in this photograph, give me some perspective of where we are on the porch.
We're still towards the center of the porch, and we're to the center, but just entering the left side of the porch.
This upright wooden beam, pole, whatever we want to call it, is that one of the supports on the front of the porch?
Yes.
And the white furniture we're seeing towards the top right-hand side of this photograph, is that furniture that, if you're standing facing the house, was located on the left side
Yes.
of the porch? All right, so now let's talk about this photograph. What are we doing here?
That's the overall area where another spent casing was located.
Underneath the porch decking?
Yes.
$38. Do you see that cartridge casing in this picture?
Yes.
If you want, stand up and point to it, and then I can show you a closer picture. You want me to show you the closer picture for perspective? Showing you 38A. So let me go back to, I think this was 38. Do you see it in 38? Is it right by the light?
Yes.
Do you see that kind of green grasshopper or bug there?
It's hiding it right there.
Okay. And then 38A, is that a close-up?
Yes.
And was that cartridge casing collected?
Yes.
Does that take us through essentially the center of the porch from the stairs to the front door?
Yes.
Now we're working our way to the left. State's Exhibit 9. Is that white chair what we were talking about earlier?
On the left side of the porch, yes.
All right, so under State's Exhibit 3, is that essentially where you were removing the decking in the last set of photos that we were looking at?
Yes.
Okay. So now are we looking for essentially 7, 11, 10, those evidence markers going left?
Correct.
State's Exhibit 10, what are we looking at here?
That is the left side of the porch.
Now I see quite a few evidence markers. Generally, what are you looking to mark in this photograph?
Any items that could be related to the investigation.
At this point, do you know whether any of these items may or may not be related?
We try to collect anything that could be related. So clothing that was with possible blood, personal effects, as well as any shooting related evidence.
State's Exhibit 12. Close or mid-range photograph of those items as they were found on the porch.
Yes.
(14) What's evidence marker 12 marking?
The cell phone on the wooden table.
And what about evidence marker 4?
A projectile on the front porch.
Were close-ups taken of that?
Yes.
State's Exhibit 15. Where's the projectile in this picture?
Right in front of marker number 4.
Right here,
Yes.
that brass object.
Yes.
I'm going to show you evidence marker 3, State's Exhibit 13. Let me know if you need a mid-range or an overall to give this perspective. State's Exhibit 3.
Okay, that's a spent Winchester .45 caliber casing towards the center of the center of the porch.
And I said that wrong. I said State's Exhibit 3. It's actually 13, evidence marker 3. That cartridge casing was found in the center or the left of the porch?
Towards the center.
State's Exhibit 45. I'm going to back that out just a little bit. Where are you standing when you're taking this photograph?
On the front porch, right in front of the front door.
Have you touched, moved, disturbed anything in the home?
No.
Were there occupants in the home at the time that you're taking this photograph?
No.
Everybody's been removed from that crime scene.
Yes.
State's Exhibit 46, evidence marker 15, is that directly inside of the door?
Yes.
When you're taking this photograph, fair to say you're standing on the threshold of the door?
Correct.
State's Exhibit 47. Now, I understand that this is either a mid-range or an overall, but is there an item of evidence sitting on the couch that became relevant to you?
Yes.
What is it?
A identification card.
I'm showing you State's Exhibit 47A. Is that identification card at evidence marker 16?
Yes.
And did you take a close-up of that identification card?
Yes.
State's Exhibit 47B. Is that the identification card?
Yes.
Did you photograph it where you found it?
Yes.
State's Exhibit 48. Now, what room are we in at this point?
The living room.
Okay, so give me a little bit of perspective, because State's Exhibit 47A, which I'm showing you now, looks to be the same couch as we're seeing in State's Exhibit 48. Are they the same or are they different?
Different.
So give us some perspective, where the front door is, orient us into this room.
If you're facing in the front door, the photograph with the identification card, the couch, that's right directly in front of you. This particular sofa will be to the left of you.
So if we're looking for the couch with the identification card on it, where would it be in relation to this photograph?
To the right side.
Along the bottom of the photograph?
Correct.
Or to the right side of the photograph?
Bottom of the photograph.
Okay, thank you. State's Exhibit 49. Is there an item that you ultimately impound in this photograph?
Yes.
What is it?
A projectile.
Where is it? Bottom left-hand side of the TV next to the credenza or the cabinet?
Correct.
All right. Do you mark it with an evidence marker, and do you take a close-up photograph?
Yes.
State's Exhibit 50. Is evidence marker 20 marking that projectile?
Yes.
And State's Exhibit 50A. Same evidence marker?
Yes.
Photographed as found?
Yes.
Was there any discoloration or substances on that projectile?
Possible blood.
And did you document that with this photograph?
Yes.
Where do you see that, if you do see it in this photograph?
On the projectile.
If you want to stand up and point to it, you can.
Red areas. It's hard to tell in this photograph, but red areas on the projectile.
Okay, thank you. State's Exhibit 51. Where are we in the home at this point?
I'm still in the living room, taking a photograph straight on into the living room.
Do you continue going down through the hallway into what would be the front bedroom of the home?
One of the front bedrooms, yes.
So give us kind of an overall general layout of the home for perspective of how we're getting to this bedroom.
This is the couch when you're first walking into the living room. That's that couch. You're passing that couch and you're looking right into the living room. And if you hang a right, that will be a hallway leading to 3 bedrooms and 1 hallway bathroom.
State's Exhibit 52. Is that the hallway you're referring to?
Yes.
Now, if you go through this open hallway and door right there, are you going towards what would be the front of the home closer to the road?
Yes.
Anything of evidentiary value you're documenting in this photograph?
No.
'53, are you just walking down that hallway?
Yes.
If you take a right, not into this room, but over here to essentially a room you can't see, but is there another small hallway into a bedroom over there?
Bedroom, yes. Bedroom doorway.
54. Now let me just show you 53 again. Here's 53. Did you turn around exactly in the same spot to take 54?
Yes.
So now if you take a left, are we going into the bedroom where there was a window with a hole in it?
Yes.
'26. Is there a window in this photograph?
It's behind the curtain.
Okay. Do you move that curtain?
Yes.
Do you photograph it in place as it is now before you're moving the curtain?
Yes.
Why?
We document the room as is before anything is removed or moved.
All right. State's Exhibit 27. Now, where's that window looking out to?
It is looking out to the west end of the front porch where the decedent was.
So if we're standing on the front steps and looking at the house, is this window that we're seeing in this photograph on the right-hand side of the front porch?
Yes.
Evidence marker 21, is that marking the same hole in the window that we looked at from the other side?
It's marking the projectile, but at the same hole in the window.
Can you see that projectile in State's Exhibit 28?
Yes.
Right next to the evidence marker.
Correct, on the left side.
Was that projectile on the inside of that window?
Yes.
On the sill?
Yes.
Close-up photograph, whoops. 29. Right there.
Yes.
Now that you've documented your scene, do you have additional work that you're doing?
Yes.
And what is that?
Evidence collection, and if there's any items of that need processing, those items will also be processed on scene.
Okay, so we already talked about the dental stone impressions you did on the shoe print. Do you collect all of the cartridge casings and all of the projectiles that we just discussed in all of the photographs?
Yes.
All right. Showing defense for identification, 19B. (17B). 15A. 13A. 7A. 8A, 24A, 21A, 21B, 29A, 35B, 38B, 41A, 40B, 50B, and 57.
Let's see a moment.
We do, Your Honor.
All right, take your time.
Yeah. Just making sure which end of it is.
I know.
Ladies and gentlemen, jury, if you want to stretch your legs, don't discuss or have any discussions. But if you would like to stand up to stretch your legs or your back, you're welcome to do that. You may.
All right, Ms. Patel, let's go through this. I'll show them to you one by one. Showing you 21A. First, before we start talking about any of these, do you recognize the exterior packaging?
Yes.
Do you recognize the seal, tape, initials, and label?
Yes.
Do you recognize your handwriting on this?
Yes.
Sorry for the interruption. We have no problem stipulating as to the predicate.
So if they move them in now, you have any objection?
No objection.
You want to move them in?
Okay. Then
All
I'll
right.
move into evidence.
I think you already put it on the record a moment ago. They're the same ones you put on the record a moment ago, right?
Same ones I just put on the record showing defense.
All admitted.
Okay.
Thank you.
Objection.
Thank you.
So, well,
All right, Ms. Patel, then let's just start, and I'm going to show you one package, and I'm going to open the rest of them up here so we can talk about this. I'm showing 21A. Before you open this, all this been moved in, so you can open it in a second. Do you have unique labels on every single package?
Yes.
Does that label identify the item that's in it and essentially case information?
Yes.
Do you have specific tape and processes that you follow to seal and package evidence?
Yes.
Why?
For chain of custody.
When you're packaging evidence, do you write on the tape so that you can see your initials there?
Yes.
Does that indicate anything to you?
Yes. We write on the tape and the outer packaging, so it will identify if the seal is broken.
Now, on these packages, do you see tape on them that you did not put there?
Yes.
Is that tape from another agency?
Yes.
Does that indicate anything to you?
That they were transferred to another entity for further analysis.
Typical for you to see that?
Yes.
All right. Is that tape the Florida Department of Law Enforcement tape and seals?
Yes.
Okay, so let's start talking about the contents of that. You've got 21A right now. Go ahead and you can open that one for me. And I want you to tell me what it is and then where it came from.
It's It's the spent .45 caliber casing that was located underneath the front porch. In my photograph, I notated as by the blue paper.
Blue paper meaning on the ground underneath the decking.
Correct.
Do you have an evidence marker that was associated with that piece of evidence?
Yes.
What?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Sorry.
Do you have photographs that were associated with that?
Yes.
All right. Go ahead and take that one. You have that one. All right. I'm going to bring you up a couple right now. Okay, let's start with these two right here. 8A. At this point, all I want to know about these is what are they and where did they come from?
Okay, spent Winchester .45 caliber spent shell casing located at marker number 2 on the third step of the front porch.
When you're talking about marker number 2, it's that yellow evidence marker that we see in the photographs.
Correct, shaped like a tent.
Does that help you correlate where that projectile or cartridge casing is coming from in relation to your photographs?
Correct.
All right. So what do we have in that exhibit?
It's the Winchester .45 caliber spent casing.
All right. I'll trade with you. I'll take that one and give you 7A. What is that and where did it come from?
This is the spent Winchester .45 caliber spent shell casing located at marker number 1 on the second front porch step.
Second meaning closer down towards the ground.
Right, second from the bottom.
All right, and I'm giving you 17B.
This is a spent Winchester .45 caliber spent shell casing located at marker number 22.
And where was marker 22? If you need to look at the photos, we can.
It was the vertical beam that was right by on the left side of the front steps, but on the porch.
Under essentially what would be the back side of that beam?
Correct.
Okay. Showing you 13A. Thank you. What is that and where did it come from?
It's a spent .45 caliber Winchester casing, and it was located at marker number 3 on the front porch.
.38B.
This is a spent .45 caliber Winchester spent shell casing that was located underneath the front porch near the left side of the porch where the white bench was.
Standing on the steps looking to the left over on that side.
Correct.
All right. .41A.
This was the spent .45 caliber Winchester spent shell casing located towards the center of the steps underneath on the ground.
40B.
Spent .45 caliber Winchester spent casing located towards the center of the porch underneath on the ground, south of the steps.
.21B.
This is spent Winchester .45 caliber casing located underneath the front porch towards if you're facing the steps on the right side, but it was, in my photograph, I can say that's east of a blue piece of paper that was in the photograph.
Was that all of the cartridge casings that you collected?
I believe there's one more. There should be a total of 10.
All right, and I've got projectiles for you as well. So I'm going to bring those to you in a second. That was 21B. I'm showing you now 50B. Take a look at that one. Let me know what it is and where it came from.
This projectile was a projectile located at marker number 20 in the living room on the ground, on the floor by the TV.
Inside the house.
Correct.
Okay. 15A.
This projectile was located at marker number 4 on the front porch, towards the left side of the front porch.
Now 24A.
This is a projectile that was located on the ground underneath the porch on the right side, underneath where the decedent was.
19B. Here's the cartridge casing I was missing. There.
Yes. All right, this is a S&B brand 45 caliber spent shell casing that was located on the ground on the right side of the front porch.
Only one that was not a Winchester cartridge casing.
Correct.
Okay. 35B.
This is a projectile that was located on the ground underneath the front porch by the window, right against the residence.
Now 29A.
This is a projectile located at marker number 22 on the windowsill in the north bedroom,
Inside.
inside the residence.
All right. And then 57.
This is the Florida driver's license in the name of Juan Gutron on the ground of the front porch on the right side.
What was the caliber of all cartridge casings and projectiles collected?
I cannot speak on the projectiles, but the casings were 45 caliber.
And head stamps on the cartridge casings, except for one, was what?
Winchester.
And when we're saying head stamp, what are we talking about?
We're talking about the solid end of the casing. There's the open end and the solid end.
And what does that information that's on that head stamp indicate?
The make and then the caliber.
And is that kind of printed into or stamped into that head stamp?
Yes.
Even after a cartridge casing's been ejected from a firearm, is that still legible?
Most times, yes.
Did you process anything for latent prints?
Yes, I did.
What?
I processed the Chevrolet van, the white Chevy van, and also the front entrance storm door.
What does it mean to process something for latent prints?
You're looking for fingerprints.
Do you use specific tools, chemicals, powders, things like that to try to make latent prints visible?
Yes, depending on the type, the surface of the item, as well as the condition of the item.
Fair to say when we're saying latent prints, we're talking about fingerprints, palm prints, things like that.
Yes, even footprints when necessary.
When you're dusting or attempting to collect fingerprints, palm prints, footprints, do you know if you're actually going to get anything of evidentiary value?
No.
When you're collecting this evidence, are you collecting it just to see what you may be able to get?
When we're processing it, yes.
Does someone else ultimately do any sort of comparison, testing, things like that?
Yes, someone else does the analysis.
Not you.
Correct.
Did you process any of the cartridge casings?
Yes.
For what?
Latent prints.
All right. And then, did you recover any firearms from 604 Ocean Mist?
No.
Did you attend an autopsy?
Yes.
Whose autopsy?
Sergio.
And the purpose of a crime scene investigation, do you need to double check that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, 1.
Do you take photographs when you're attending that autopsy?
Yes, I was only there for a portion of the autopsy.
Do you collect items of evidence, clothes, fingernails, other things from that autopsy?
Yes.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yeah.
I'll pass the witness. Do you need any of that?
Let's see what I've got.
How you doing?
Good, sir. Thank
Good
you.
to see you again. So I want to talk first about some general ideas of crime scene reconstruction, right?
Okay.
You're familiar with that term, reconstruction or crime scene analysis, crime scene processing, right?
Yes.
So when we use the term crime scene in the broadest of sense, it's that area that law enforcement is going to investigate to see if a crime has been committed and who committed that crime, right?
Correct.
And the general principle of crime scenes is we want to go large to small, right?
Correct.
In other words, if it's too small and the crime scene has an area that's not perimetered off, it can be contaminated, or potentially evidence can be lost, destroyed, never found, right?
Correct.
So you're going to get out there after the crime scene has been determined, right?
Correct.
And I think there is at some point in time an idea that, we saw photos of the side of the house, right? Where there was a fence and some red substance, presumed to be blood.
Correct.
All right, and that there had been someone who had suffered a gunshot wound that had been found in that area or had been in that area at some point in time.
Correct.
And I think that was an area where the perimeter had actually had to expand, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, yes, for the
Yes,
record. There you
exactly.
go. When we talk about this particular crime scene, it was already perimetered by the time you got there.
Correct.
All right, and that means yellow tape. that
Correct.
says do not cross, right?
Correct.
And inside that perimeter, only authorized people can go. Would you agree with me on that?
Correct.
And that does not mean just any law enforcement officer or any crime scene technician can go in there, right?
Correct.
In other words, I think I'm so sorry, I forget your title now, but you're more in supervisor roles now, right?
Correct.
If you respond to a scene as a supervisor, but not an active investigator, you might not go in that perimeter, right?
Correct.
It just depends on the situation. The idea that I'm trying to get to is that we want to limit those people who are in the perimeter to those people who have a purpose for going in there, right?
Yes.
In a case like this, this is not your first gunshot case, right?
Correct.
In a case like this, often there'll be a 911 call or police are notified in some way and they will respond to a scene, right?
Yes.
Now, I think you know this, but if I'm outside of your knowledge, please let me know. But when police get there, their first priority is going to be the safety of themselves and other people, right?
Correct.
And you also know that then if there are people who are injured, they will try to help those people, right?
Correct.
Are you aware of whether police knew or had confirmation that this shooter was gone from the area when they arrived?
When I arrived on scene, that was information I was given.
Right. When you arrived, it was safe, right?
Right.
So you don't get out and go in until someone within your agency says it's clear, it's safe.
Correct.
Right. I got that that's you. But sometimes police will respond to a scene and they will not know if there's still a danger.
Correct.
Okay. So before the perimeter is set up, the danger has to be cleared, right?
Yes.
And it goes without saying, but I'll still ask the question. Once we determine that we can keep the officer safe, and once it's determined that we can keep anybody else safe, if there's someone injured, that's going to be the next priority, right?
I'm not a first responding deputy, so I don't know what their priorities, and it all depends on the scene.
Fair enough. I didn't want to go too far for you. But at some point in time, when they perimeter off the scene and they bring you in to do your work, I started a question. Let's just backtrack and pretend I didn't ask that, okay? All right. When you go into that scene, we saw a lot of photos as it related to like styrofoam cups on top of casings, right?
Correct.
And what you said was that it's not uncommon for an officer to put a styrofoam cup over a casing to mark that.
To preserve it.
Right. Yes. Your wording is much better than mine. The formal marking will be when you put the evidence tag on, right?
Correct.
They'll preserve it to make sure that you know you do that, right?
As well as additional personnel not knocking it any further or moving it or it being misplaced.
And can you agree with me that the crime scene, as you get it, is going to be in the condition it is when law enforcement secures it, and that may or may not be the condition of the scene as when the event happens?
Correct.
Certainly, if, as in this case, there are people who are shot and people who are concerned and trying to help, whether they be friends, neighbors, family members, first responders, they could or could not knock into something or move something unintentionally, right?
Correct.
All right. So when we put all of these markers up and all of these pictures, and there were several of them, I was just looking to pick out one, for example. Just going to pick up a random one, and I'm going to show you State 13, right? That's evidence marker 3.
Yes.
Okay? And you were asked questions about that. Can you tell me that is where that particular item was when the shooting occurred?
No.
All right. That's just where it is when it was discovered and found, right?
Yes.
I'm going to show you State Exhibit number 5. We saw a couple of these photos. I note here that I'm going to point in the bottom center. There are what appears to be at least one, maybe more, orange extension cords.
Yes.
Those are Hillsborough County Sheriff, right?
Yes.
Those are for light sources.
Yes.
All right. And I'm going to point to the left of the picture. There's what I'm going to just give you my description. Kind of looks a little bit like a buoy. A yellow item that you can see is throwing out light, and you can see that it's got some intense light on that picket fence that it's right by.
Correct.
Okay. Is that something that looks like if I follow an extension cord up, that is something that is sourced by the extension cord from HCSL?
Yes.
All right. So that is something brought out. It's not a permanent light. Yes?
Correct.
All right. So you are, in addition to photographs, in addition to collecting evidence and marking where it's found at a scene, you can also do diagrams.
Yes.
Okay, and measurements can be critical.
Yes.
Okay, because can we agree that this photo that I'm looking at shows the condition of that house, November 25th, the morning of November 25th, 2010, as it existed at the time the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office lit it up, right?
Yes.
You have to be able to see to do your job. That's obvious, but I need that confirmation, right?
Correct.
You cannot really replicate the lighting conditions as they existed at the time, can you?
To document it, no, because with a camera, you're adding an additional light source, whether it's the on-camera flash. It's not the same as your normal eyes acclimating to the darkness.
I was going to ask like 2 or 3 follow-up questions. Your answer was good. It tells me. So if it's dark, a flash will help illuminate, right?
Correct.
This is a dark street. Can you agree on that?
Yes.
Okay. When you got out there, were all the lights used and on, or were they still being set up?
HCSO lights?
Yes. Thank you.
They were being set up.
All right. So was it still dark?
Yes.
All right. Had any lights been on?
No.
Okay. So it's dark, dark, dark. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. There is not a street light in front of that house.
Not that I can recall.
There's not a street light to the left.
Not that I can recall.
There's not a street light to the right.
Not that I can recall.
That road is going to have, right around this house, it's going to take a sharp, kind of almost like a U-turn,
Correct.
right? And so there is no light except for this portion until you light up that light.
For that residence, yes.
I may be out of date here. Are you familiar with the term dark killers?
No.
Okay. Way back in the day, when convenience stores and malls, and they got new lights, okay, that were bright instead of the old, darker lights, right? They called them dark killers. I mentioned that because that's the lighting I'm seeing. These are bright lights that you're throwing out, right?
Semi-bright lights, yes.
I mean, you can see, right? Just from this photo, is that your photo being taken?
It is, and it's in addition to my camera flash, too, lighting up the scene.
Okay, so this clearly, and I'm not saying it against you, but this clearly is not an accurate picture if we wanted to know what this street light looked like before the lights were up, right?
Correct.
Okay. Did you do a crime scene diagram in this case?
No, I was not tasked to do that.
Okay, but with respect, you know that once this crime scene is released, it loses its value, right?
Yes.
And you know what I mean by that, right?
Yes. Yes.
Because when it's released back to the people, who in this case are residents, fingerprints, DNA, any type of that thing, it's lost forever, right?
Potentially.
Okay. Have you been back to this scene since that night?
No.
Do you know whether there's been any changes at all to this intersection?
No.
The other thing that I want to ask when I ask about a crime scene diagram is that it can give us measurements, right?
Yes.
Where are you standing when you take this picture? Do you recall?
In the roadway of Ocean Mist Court,
Okay. That's a pretty narrow roadway, isn't it?
right in front of the residence. Yes.
Right. And it's not a like even a 2-lane road. You have to be careful if 2 cars are going in different directions, right?
It's not a single lane road, but you can still maneuver 2 cars.
Correct. And I like your phrasing. You'd have to maneuver. If you were coming to me and I was coming to you, there would have to be some maneuvering. It's not a true classic 2-lane roadway. Can we agree with that?
Yes.
I know you didn't do it, but I'm going to ask you these questions. Can you tell me what the measurement is of of that road?
No, sir.
Can you tell me what the measurement is of that porch?
No, sir.
Can you tell me what the measurement is from this front door to this car right here? And this car is a car that I'm going to call like kind of gold or silver. Can you tell me the distance there?
No, sir.
Can you tell me the distance of any of that property?
No.
In fact, would you agree with me that this is actually, the road is actually quite close to the porch?
Depends on your relativity.
I got you. I'm not sure quite how to respond to that. I know what you're saying there, but the idea is this is not a long driveway, is it?
Correct.
Okay. The front, was it asphalt or was it sand? What type of footing is there in front of the house?
Most of it is sand.
Most of it is sand. And you said that you got part of a shoe print. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Now, contrary to what we may see on TV, when you gather evidence, you're not often responsible for any processing. Say what you have to say. I'll clean up my question. I know what you mean. Go ahead.
It depends on the type of evidence, what our agency is limited to being able to do with that evidence. FTLE is a state lab that is has different forensic disciplines that it's able to further analyze a particular piece of evidence.
Let me give you an example. Let's start with you, specifically you, and I think you also use the general you in the HCSO. You, for example, notice what I think you find is what looked like a red type of substance, possibly blood.
Correct.
Right? And you've been trained, you don't say it's blood, even if it looks like blood, until you swab it with a phenolphthalein, and then it later gets tested, right?
Correct.
In that, do you do the test analysis to see if that substance is blood as opposed to something else?
We do. We sometimes can do a presumptive, but we do not do the confirmation.
Gotcha. So the confirmation will go out somewhere within or outside the agency?
Outside of the agency.
All right. Now, that I know there's some other things within the agency, but as far as fingerprints, Hillsborough County Sheriff has inside the agency, yes?
Correct.
And Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, when you collect the fingerprints, you send it to someone within the latent fingerprint section, and they will do their work.
Correct.
Okay? So a lot of what you're doing is gathering, right?
Correct.
Oftentimes there will be something called a scene detective or a crime scene detective assigned.
Yes.
All right. Was there one in this case?
Yes.
Who was that?
Charles Preston Hollis.
Hollis?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't hear that. And the crime scene detective is who you will talk to, right?
Yes.
Obviously, you've been doing this before. You've advanced in your career, so you have an idea of what needs to be done in these types of cases when you get out there, right?
Yes.
But you talk to your crime scene detective because sometimes there will be information gathered from witnesses or other people that may suggest a particular item is important or not, right?
Yes.
For example, the blue car that we see in Exhibit 5, is that important or not?
For this case, it was processed by another CSI for latent prints, but at the time we did not know if it was or was not
Right.
important.
And so you process that because you cannot assume this is not important, only to later find out it was, right?
Correct.
All right, because again, once this is released, the scene evidence can be lost or it can be contaminated and rendered useless. Is that right?
Yes.
I think you indicated that there were 2 holes in the damage to the window. You remember talking about that?
1 hole to the window and 2 to the frame of the home.
All right, so in those were separate bullet holes, right?
I won't say bullet holes, but possible strike marks of some sort.
Gotcha. You won't even go that far, and I understand why. Is that what you're saying? You have 2 holes.
Yes, correct.
Now, do you know if there had been any of, let me put it this way, any of the damage that's at a house or at any scene? We can never assume that was caused by the event, right? In other words, it's possible that there could be prior damage,
Yes.
right? Do you know if there was any prior damage in this house?
I was not advised of any.
Okay. But that tells me you do not know if there was any prior damage.
Correct.
Okay. So was there anything that indicated in these 2 holes that you saw that those were definitely a part of this event that you're investigating?
No, sir.
Can we talk about this idea of shell casings for a second? Because typically shell casings may kick or eject, right?
Correct.
All right. And they can bounce off items, ground, and they can take weird bounces. They don't always bounce
Correct.
regularly, right?
Correct.
Okay. So when you look at a shell casing, and if you're going to assume that that shell casing is where it was when the event happened, that may not conclusively tell us anything about anything definitely about where a shooter or shooters were, right?
Correct.
All right. So in this particular case, one of the things you have the ability to do is you have the ability to check angles, right?
Dependent upon the scene.
Right, depending on the scene. That you may be able to look and see where a hole, or what's your term that you use?
A strike mark.
Strike.
It's a hole, but I didn't call it a bullet hole.
Gotcha. You can potentially look to see and go back. Used to be with string, but now with lasers, you can go back and try to find an angle, right?
Certain criteria have to be met in order to do that.
Right. That criteria did not exist in this case?
Correct. Usually we're looking for 2 correlating holes in order to be able to run a trajectory rod or run something through. Because if you have just 1 hole, your angle, your x-axis angle could go in it all along the x-axis and change.
Gotcha. And so that could not be done in this case, right?
Correct.
And sometimes the location of holes or other things may be able to tell us a general location of where a shooter or shooters were. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
And whether a shooter or shooters were moving at the time, right? Potentially.
Yes.
Again, obvious question, but I want to make sure it's clear and on the record. There's nothing about what you see with these with this evidence that you collected to determine the order in which a gun was fired, right?
Correct.
Okay, you can't go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, or any combination thereof.
For this particular scene, no.
Correct. And the number of pass on that for just a second because I just realized the lighting question. What wattage is this porch light?
I do not know.
How far would it have cast light?
I do not recall. I do not
Okay.
know.
You're familiar, aren't you, that sometimes when you go from light to dark, given other conditions, that could cause problems seeing clearly, right?
Yes.
Okay. And we did not even check to see how bright that light was.
No.
Did you ever stand on that porch with all the lights off, look out in that road, and see how far you could see?
No, sir.
Did you ever ask Detective Hollis to do that?
No.
Did you know the location of any people, whether they be victims, whether they be witnesses, whether they be anybody? Did you ever have an idea of where people were?
No.
Okay? So if somebody had been in the front porch area or the front sandy area or somewhere on the side of the house, you have not done anything you can to help gather their perspective, their ability to see based on whatever lighting conditions were met.
Yes, I was never advised of anybody's positioning.
Right. HCSO does have video, right?
Yes, video capabilities.
Video
yes.
capabilities, right? Was that used?
No.
Okay. Because video can sometimes replicate distance, right? How long it may take to go from the middle of the road to that front porch, for example, on a regular walk.
Yes.
Okay? And you can simulate things, right?
Yes.
Part of crime scene analysis, you would agree, is a actual reconstruction of the events, right?
Dependent on the crime scene.
Right, to see, now we know who was potentially there, where they were standing, could they see what they claim to see, these types of things, right?
Yes.
That was not done in this case, right?
No. Not by me.
What about trying to preserve what could have been visible or not visible to victims or witnesses?
I'm not understanding your question.
Well, let me ask you this. Did you have any idea whether any vehicle was in this area? And I'm circling this area in front of what I'm calling the HCSO light buoy. That yellow thing. Right here in that front area, that looks like grass, right?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever see from that porch whether anybody who would have been on that porch could have had the capability to see from the porch to that area that was not measured?
I do have.
Objection, speculation.
Did you ever see?
I do have additional photographs that were taken from the porch looking out towards the street.
Okay. That you took those with the lights on or with the lights off?
On.
Okay. I want lights off. Did you take
No.
any of those pictures?
No.
Okay. That is a grassy area, right?
Partly. Yes.
Partly. Is there asphalt in there or is that more sand?
I don't recall. I think it's more sand.
How many holes were in the house or the holes were discovered?
3.
How many casings were discovered?
10.
How many spent bullets were
5.
recovered? So you have 3 holes. You have 10 casings, 5 spent bullets.
Yes. Yes.
When you left this scene, and I'm going to say you, Patel, were you in charge? Were you the head crime? I know you'll refer to supervisors and whatnot. Were you the one responsible for this investigation from the crime scene?
Just at this location.
At this location. Right. Let me just jump on that and jump off. When we have a crime scene, sometimes there are multiple crime scenes in an area, right?
Correct.
Right. In this an event, if there's another area, sometimes people will call an autopsy a crime scene. I don't know if you're in that camp or not.
Correct.
Okay. So you would go, as you mentioned, to the autopsy. But as far as going to 604 Ocean Mist, when you arrived at what time?
Approximately 4:30 a.m.
I saw some pictures which suggested you were there for a while because light came out, right?
Yes.
What time did you clock out?
I don't recall because later that day I was still going to the medical examiner's office at 4 p.m. So.
Fair enough. When I say clock out, when you left that scene to go to the medical examiner's office or do anything else, did you go and come back or were you gone and then gone for good once you first left?
Gone for good.
If I may have a moment.
Okay. Redirect.
These, I think.
Ms. Patel, to your knowledge, were projectiles recovered from victims?
I do not know.
Would that have been from an autopsy that you did not attend?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so when we're looking at the number of cartridge casings and the number of projectiles recovered, they're not the same, right?
Jack leading.
That it is. Rephrase.
Were they the same?
No,
Not as many projectiles as cartridge casings?
correct.
Okay. When we're talking about cartridge casings and projectiles, are you familiar with firearms?
Yes,
Does the projectile get expelled out of a different location than the cartridge casing on a firearm?
Object, improper opinion, may we approach?
You can approach. You can.
yes, ma'am.
Projectile, bullet, comes out the end of a gun.
Yes,
Cartridge casing, ejected out the side of the gun.
yes.
The two separate when a bullet's fired.
Object, leading.
Rephrase it.
Does the projectile and the cartridge casing separate when the bullet is fired?
Yes.
Do you find those two items, when you're on a crime scene, separate from each other?
Usually, yes.
Now, when we're talking about cartridge casings, does the styrofoam cups that we saw in all of our photographs, are those placed there by patrol?
I was advised they were placed by patrol.
You're not there, but you're told this.
Yes.
Object, lack of knowledge,
Hold on.
speculation.
Well, I will caution the witness not to speculate. Answer only if you know.
When you arrive on scene, are there cartridge casings covered by styrofoam cups?
Yes.
When you're on scene taking photographs, do you observe any patrol, any detectives, anyone moving, touching, or disturbing any of those styrofoam cups or the contents that are underneath them?
At the time that I began photographing and doing my processing of the scene, no.
From the time that you arrive on scene and you begin your work, does anyone touch those styrofoam cups except for you when you're placing your evidence markers or you're picking those styrofoam cups up?
No.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Released or subject to recall by the state? Released.
Subject to recall, please.
All right. You may step down. You don't have to wait outside, but you are subject to recall in case we call you to come back some later time. All right. And ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we are going to take our afternoon break. I'll say 20 minutes. I know sometimes it takes a little more than 20 minutes because there's only one restroom back there. But please do not discuss the case amongst yourselves or with anyone else. Please do not do any research related to the case and avoid any reports of the case outside of the courtroom. When we come back, the plan today is go up maybe not quite as long as I know we went right up to 5 yesterday, and I told you I'd try to get you out of here by 5 every day. But I'm going to talk with the attorneys and see what witnesses they have out there today. All rise for the jury. Everyone may be seated. So what do you have left today, State?
Judge, we have Mr. Johnny Sanchez, who I think is relatively short. We have one of our victims, Mr. Galan, and the medical examiner.
Is gone. And the medical examiner?
Yes, Judge. If you don't think we can get to the medical examiner, we can call her off.
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think so. How long do you think the victim is going to be?
Judge, he's the longer of the two. Mr. Sanchez, for the state, really is only going to be a couple of minutes. I don't know how long the defense cross of him would be, so I do think that's a relatively short witness.
Okay. Yeah, there's no way we're going to get to the medical examiner, but, I mean, let's see how far we get with the victim, because it's 3:20 now. Even if we come back at 3:40, that's almost 4 o'clock, so that's an hour and 20 minutes till 5 o'clock, and I have told them that we would try each day to get done by 5 o'clock. So we'll just do our best and try. If we have to bring them back, we have to bring them back. Did you want to say something?
Yes, juror number 71, same problem. Again.
Oh, I didn't know. Let me just check. 71 in seat number 3.
I pointed it out to Ms. Koloff, who saw it as well.
I did at one point, Your Honor, not enough.
So I don't know if the problem is maybe he's working day and night. I don't know what the issue could be. But he's the only one that I saw, and because of the situation, I'm trying to keep my eye on.
No, and I have been too, and every time I've looked at him, he appeared alert. So I'm not saying that you didn't notice that. It's absolutely possible. I'm not staring at him the whole time, but every time that I've looked at him, he appeared to be alert ever since this morning we asked them to stand up. So, I mean, at this point, are you asking me to bring him in and inquire? Keep watching them for now?
Let's see. Maybe tomorrow morning. Maybe you'll get a good night rest tonight.
Let's keep watching him. I'm telling you, I'm not opposed to question him at any time if necessary, and I will do the questioning. So, even if you change your mind and you say tomorrow morning you want me to question him about yesterday, we noticed that you might have been nodding off. Are we wrong about that? That type of stuff. I mean, I'm not going to drill him. I'm not going to cross-examine him, but ask him some questions.
I'm trying to think of what some of his answers were during the questioning of the jurors.
Yeah, I don't remember at all what his schedule is. If he's one of those that's doing double time, don't know. But y'all can look at that. So let's just, I appreciate that information, and I will continue, and I will also ask my staff to continue, my bailiffs to keep an eye on him, and certainly to text me, let me know, reach out to me if you see him, and I happen to not see him because I'm reading something or something up here. All right.
Judge, maybe if they could email us, because I know during jury selection we did email back and forth when we saw some of the potential jurors.
Yeah.
Because
That
I know
way
Miss
there's
Doherty and I
no question if you send an email to them.
Okay.
Can you do that? Okay. All right, enjoy the break. Let's see if they're ready.
John is being summoned as we speak.
That's not a problem. I won't bring in the jury before him, but they're checking on them to make sure they're all done and ready. What? Oh, congratulations. All right. See, they're still using the rest. I told you, it takes them forever, 15 of them to use one bathroom. They tell me that well, let's stop. They should have put 2 restrooms back there.
There are 2 restaurants back there. There's 2 restrooms.
Not in our jury.
Not in the jury room.
Oh, but right back here there is, right?
No.
Oh, that's right. I was thinking when I was in 6. You're right.
Yeah, there's only one. Yeah, so all 15 of them have to use one restroom. So when we take a break, it's not a problem when there's 7 of them. You know, if it's a 6-person jury, we got an alternate. But when there's 15 of them, and you say we're going to take a 20-minute break, that's less than a minute and a half per.
Well, fortunately, they're all men, or mostly men. I think we're a little quicker.
And, you know,
Oh, and look, your assistant is like,
I'm not agreeing, disagreeing, anything with that statement. So I'm going to stay out of it.
I know that's right. I raised 2 boys. I don't know that I can agree with that.
well, we're not taking showers.
Very true. Very true.
You know, Judge, I've got an idea for tomorrow morning. Maybe we can serve cafe con leche.
It may not be a bad idea. I was going to suggest I have caffeine mints. So I was going to say maybe I could get some more.
Like those little caffeine chocolates that are very good.
Last time during Mr. Grant's cross-examination?
Yeah.
Because this morning was during Mr. Grant's cross-examination.
I questioned him about it.
Yeah, maybe there's a common theme there. All jurors are present and seated. Everyone must be seated at this time. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, welcome back. Just quick question. Anyone exposed to anything about the case or discussed anything about the case during the break by a show of hands? No hands. Again, thank you all very much. I'm going to tell the state to please call their next witness.
Johnny Sanchez.
Johnny Sanchez. Mr. Sanchez, good afternoon and welcome, sir. If you'll come forward to be sworn, wherever you're comfortable, if you'll face me and raise your right hand, please. Thank you. Do you swear affirmative testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. If you'll follow the bailiff down to the ramp that leads up to the witness chair, please watch your step. Go ahead, have a seat in that chair, make yourself comfortable. That microphone in front of you is fully adjustable. Not a problem. That's our pointer.
Thank you, sir.
You may proceed.
Please state your full name for the record.
Johnny Joe Sanchez,
Mr. Sanchez, where do you work?
Lawrence Tampa Bay Fisheries.
How long have you worked for the fisheries?
Going on 19 years.
Okay. Back in 2010, without giving us your address, what part of town did you live in?
Waimama.
Waimama. And back in 2010, were you familiar with an ice cream truck driver by the name of Michael?
Yes.
And I want to use Thanksgiving of 2010 as a reference point. And are you familiar with a shooting that occurred on Ocean Mist in Ruskin, Florida, that Thanksgiving of 2010?
Yes.
And using that as a reference point, I want to ask you about the few months leading up to that Thanksgiving in November of 2010 when that shooting occurred on Ocean Mist. During those 3 months, and I'm talking about September and October and November, did you see a person that you knew as Michael, the ice cream truck driver?
Yes.
And where would you see him?
He would come around selling ice cream. We'd be at my mother's house and he'd come by and sell ice cream.
And where did your mother live?
In Waimama.
Waimama. And how often would that occur where you would see that person you knew as Michael, the ice cream van driver?
Daily.
Daily basis?
Daily, yes.
Okay. And what sort of vehicle was he driving?
It was a purple van.
Purple ice cream van?
Purple ice cream van, yeah.
Okay. And during that time period, again, a few months prior to Thanksgiving, was there at some point that you had a conversation with that person?
Yes.
Okay. And you said that you had seen him on a daily basis, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Back then, did you know what his full name was?
No.
Okay. Since then, have you become aware that his name is Michael Keetley?
Yes.
Can you identify him?
Yes.
Can you point to him and describe what he's wearing?
Looks like a tan sweater.
Your Honor, may the record reflect he's identified the defendant?
Record shall so reflect.
Again, we're talking about this 2-month period prior to Thanksgiving of 2010. Did you have conversations with him?
Yes.
Did there come a point during that time period where he was looking for someone?
Yes.
Who was he looking for?
Somebody by the name of Creep or Creeper.
Okay. And did he ask you that while he was on his ice cream route?
Yes.
Okay. And I believe you said that you would see him at your mother's house in Waimama.
Yes.
And during that time period, specifically when he was asking you whether or not you knew this Creep or Creeper, did you know a person by that name?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Did you relay that to that person, the defendant?
Yes.
Okay. And when that conversation happened, where was he?
He was selling ice cream.
Okay.
He was driving the van.
He was driving.
Yes.
He was the driver
Yes.
of the ice cream van?
Yes.
Okay. Did he have anyone else in the van with him at the time?
Yes, he did.
Did you know who that person
No, I
was?
didn't.
Did you really pay attention to who that person
No, I
was?
didn't.
Okay. I have nothing further, Your Honor. We passed the witness.
Rob?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, Mr. Sanchez.
Good afternoon.
You knew Mr. Keetley because he was your local ice cream man,
Yes, ma'am.
but you knew him by the name Mike, right?
Yep.
And you would see him on a daily basis. Do you remember what range of the years were?
No, I don't.
2008, 2009 sound
Oh,
familiar?
yeah. Yeah, that's about it, yeah.
And do you recall there being a significant gap of time when you didn't see him every single day selling
Yes.
ice cream?
Yes.
And did you at some point learn that it was because he had been shot?
A little bit after, yes.
And then when you saw him after that time gap, you don't remember how long it was?
No, I don't.
But there was a time gap, and then when you saw him again, he had somebody in the ice cream truck assisting him.
Yes.
And so somebody was there. Prior to, there wasn't somebody assisting him.
No, he would be on his own.
When Mr. Keetley asked you, you mentioned something about a creep or creeper, right?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
It was just a simple yes or no question.
Yes.
Just a simple exchange after you answered, nothing further, did not push you, correct?
That was it.
No other questions, Your Honor.
Redirect.
No redirect, Your Honor.
It is witness to be released by the state,
Yes, sir.
and the defense are subject to recall.
Release.
All right, you may step down, sir. You may be released as a witness at this time. You're welcome. I'll ask the state to please call your next witness.
Ramon Gallant.
Ramon Gallant.
Gallant.
Gallant. Apologize. Mr. Gallant, good afternoon and welcome, sir. If you'll come forward to be sworn as a witness, wherever you're comfortable, if you'll face me and please raise your right hand. Thank you. Do you swear or affirm any testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, thank you, sir. If you'll follow the bailiff to the ramp that leads up to the witness chair, please watch your step. When you get to that chair, go ahead, have a seat, make yourself comfortable. The microphone in front of you adjusts. You let me know when you're ready. You ready? Yeah. Proceed.
Will you state your name and spell your last name?
Ramon Gallant Jr., G-A-L-A-N.
Do me a favor, scoot a little bit closer to the microphone for me. You can move it if you need to. Thanks.
There you go.
Mr. Gallant, how old are you?
41.
How are you employed?
Drive a truck. I'm a
Okay.
semi-truck.
Have you been doing that for a while?
Yes, I've been with the same company for 19 years.
Okay. In that same capacity, driving a truck, 19 years.
Yes.
Okay. I want to take you back to November 25th of 2010.
Yes.
Recall that date?
Yes.
Now let's start actually on November 24th of 2010 in the late evening hours. And then we're going to go through to those early morning hours.
Okay.
Where did you start your evening, we'll call it, on the 24th?
At my cousin's house.
Okay, who's your cousin?
My cousin Rosemary.
Okay. So give me kind of the who's there, who are you hanging out with, and then we'll get to who do you end up leaving with.
Okay.
All right, so who's there with you?
A lot of my family was there. My wife and my son was there. A lot of my cousins, Rosemary, Juan.
Give me full
Richard.
names. What's Juan's last name?
Withron.
Okay.
And then Richard Canty was there.
Okay.
Other cousins of mine. I mean, there was a bunch of us there.
Sure. Night before Thanksgiving, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you all stay at Rosemary's for a while?
Yes.
Did your wife and your kids stay there too?
For a while, then they end up going home.
Okay. Do you have any drinks while you're at Rosemary's?
Yes.
What are you drinking?
Bud Light. Beer.
How many do you think you have?
There, probably 3 or 4.
Okay, so what time does your wife leave?
I couldn't tell you the exact time. Maybe 8
Approximately.
o'clock, 9 o'clock.
Say it again for me.
Maybe 8 or 9 o'clock.
All right. Do you stay at Rosemary's a little bit longer?
Yes.
How late are you there?
I couldn't tell you the exact time.
Ballpark it.
11, 12.
All right.
And it was late.
Who's with you?
I was with Juan Withron and Richard Canty.
Okay, Richard Cantu's your cousin, right?
Yes, they're both my cousins.
All right. How often were you hanging out with them?
Quite a bit.
More than just family gatherings?
Yes.
Would you consider yourself friends with them?
Yes.
Hanging out with them more than maybe just Thanksgiving?
Yes.
All right. How often would you see them?
Almost every weekend.
Did you all get together as family on the weekends?
I mean, not like we did that night. That night it was a bunch of more family.
Sure.
That night, but yeah, but me and Richard and Juan were hanging out a lot.
What part of Hillsborough County were you all living in?
Ruskin.
All of you all?
Yes.
Big family down there?
Yes.
How long had you all been there?
I've been there my whole life, so
What about your cousins?
their whole life too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you all are getting together, that's a fairly regular occurrence then?
Yes.
All right. Let's talk about Sergio Guitron. Is he related to you?
Yes.
Okay, how?
He's my cousin also.
And was he the brother of?
Juan.
All right. Did you hang out with Sergio Guitron as much as you did Juan?
No.
How come?
I was just younger. I mean, I hung out with him not as much as Juan. But Juan and Richard worked together at the time, and then I was close with Richard, so Juan came around more.
Okay. What was the age difference between you and Sergio?
I would say at least 4 or 5 years, I would say.
And what about you and Juan?
Juan's probably a year younger than me.
Okay. Who is Gonzalo Guevara?
Just a friend.
Not related to you all?
No.
Close friend?
Yes.
Did you grow up with him?
Knew him since junior high.
Hang out together?
Yes.
What about Daniel Beltran? Do you know who that was?
No.
That's someone who you learned of or kind of knew who he was?
Yeah.
Did you hang out with him at all?
No.
Jose Rodriguez. Do you know that name?
I know it now, but yeah, I didn't. At the time, I did not.
Okay. Back on November 24th, 25th, did not know who that was?
No.
Later learned that he may have been at Ocean Mist?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so let's go back to that night, the 24th. You're at Rosemary's. Do you decide to stay later than your wife?
Yes.
And then do you decide to leave at some point?
Yes.
Who do you leave with?
With Richard and Juan.
Who's driving? Where are you guys going?
We had got a call, that Sergio and Gonzalo, and then we're hanging out at another house. And then, so we went over there. It was me, Richard, and Juan, and Richard was driving his car.
All right. Did your wife take your car home?
We lived on the same block as my other cousin, Rosemary.
Okay.
So I don't even know if we had a car. I can't remember if we walked or not.
Could have walked.
Yes.
Okay. Short answer is we're not driving your car that night, though.
Yes.
Okay, so you're with Mr. Cantu, and who else is with you?
Juan.
And you all go to an address that you're familiar with or not?
No, never been there.
Who's kind of setting the stage of where you guys are going and planning all of this?
I don't forget who got the call. Either Richard or Juan got the call. They were hanging out. So we decided to go see them for a minute. And then we had stopped at the store before that.
So I want to stay there for just a second. Before you all leave, were you planning to stay at Ocean Mist for any real length of time?
No.
What was your plan?
To go back to Rosemary's house.
How come?
So that's where we were at, and that's where everybody else was at.
Okay. So at the time that you all are leaving, you, Juan, and Richard, how much of you had to drink?
Maybe 5 beers, 6.
Over what kind of time frame?
4 hours, I would say we were probably there.
Had you consumed any drugs?
No.
Do you get drug tested for work?
Yes.
When you all leave Rosemary's, you said you went to a gas station or a convenience store?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
It's a Chevron down the street from where I live.
Okay.
So we stopped there before we went over there.
Why'd you stop there?
We bought a 12-pack of beer.
Did you go from the gas station or a convenience store straight over to the house on Ocean Mist?
Yes.
Was it your first time going to that house?
Yes.
Were you familiar with Ocean Mist?
I mean, I knew the area, but I've never been at that house.
Okay. Did you know any of the people who lived in that house, 604 Ocean Mist?
No.
Were you going because you had friends and family that were there with other people they knew?
Yes.
All right. When you all get to Ocean Mist, where does Richard Cantu park?
On the street, close to the main entrance of the gate,
Okay, describe this area for me if you can.
like where he parked.
Where he parked, the street, house, that kind of stuff.
I mean, just pull up, and then there was a ditch there, and then there's an opening where the kind of like a dirt driveway, and the opening of the gate.
Was it light? Was it dark? Tell me what.
It was dark.
Could you see anybody on the front porch or around the front porch?
Yes, I could see on the porch. They had the light on the porch.
What about out in the yard? Could you see anything?
Oh no.
When you all get there, what do you do?
We walk up to the porch, and just shake everybody's hand.
Meet some people for the first time?
Yeah.
See your cousins and your friends?
Yes.
Do you go on to that front porch?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to show you, there's a screen to your left. I'm going to show you a photograph that's already been moved into evidence. It states Exhibit 5A. Do you recognize that front porch?
Yes.
Do you recognize any of the vehicles or any of the surrounding area?
No, that's the car we came in.
Which one?
The one you can barely see the bumper.
The one to the far right in
Yes.
the bottom right-hand corner?
Yes.
Whose car is that?
Richards.
Okay. Is that where you all parked that car?
Yes.
How did you get into the front yard?
If I remember right, just coming next to that blue car there.
On the left or the right-hand side, if you remember?
I want to say the right side.
Okay. Walk up through the yard. Do you go straight to the front porch?
Yes.
Now, would you agree with me that this photograph is probably lit up a lot more than what you saw when you walked up?
Yes.
Okay. So this yellow light that's over here to the left side of the blue car, that wasn't there, was it?
No.
So when you're walking up to this house, from the road, can you see the front porch?
I could see the front porch, yes, because the
Could
light
you
was on.
I interrupted you. Go ahead.
I'm saying I could see the front porch when we were walking up because they had a light on the front porch.
Could you see people on the front porch when you're out in front of the cars?
Yes.
Could you make out who they were, what they were wearing, things like that?
Even just the ones I knew knew Gonzo and Sergio there.
Sure.
So
And
I knew who they
Gonzo's
were.
Gonzalo Guevara?
Yes. Sorry.
Okay.
Gonzalo.
Tell me where everybody's standing, sitting, located as you're walking up.
I believe on the left side there was a table and chairs. And they were playing cards there, so they were all there. I
Wait.
don't remember the exact seating, but I know they were all sitting at that table.
Okay. Is everybody over on the left-hand side of the porch?
Yes.
When you walk up, where do you go?
Like I said, we just came up to the table and shook each other's hands and talked for a minute right there.
Did you go up onto the porch?
Yes, I believe I stood the whole time. I never sat down.
How long, and I'm going to jump ahead just a little bit, but how long were you there from the time that you all pulled up until the time that you were shot?
I want to say a half hour. It wasn't long.
All right. Now let's talk about that half hour. During that time frame, did you drink any beers?
Yes.
How many?
Probably one more beer.
How would you describe your level of intoxication at that point?
I mean, I wasn't drunk, but I wasn't sober neither, so
Could you feel the effects of the beer?
a little bit, yeah.
Sure. Okay. What is everybody else doing around you?
Just playing cards and drinking beer too.
Anybody consuming any drugs?
Not in front of me. Not
Okay.
that I s-
All right. At some point, do you decide it's time to go?
Yes.
What leads up to that?
We were just stopping by to hang out for a minute. We weren't planning on staying out there from the beginning. The plan was to go back to where we were at. So
So how do you all decide when, how you're going to leave?
I don't remember who said it first, but we said we were going to go back. We already were getting ready to go. I told them that we were leaving.
What do you do?
I remember shaking everybody's hand saying we were leaving, and I came down off the porch. I was kind of like standing on the bottom step already, and then Juan was talking to Sergio still, so that's what we were waiting on for
Okay.
them to quit talking. Stop talking. Me and Richard already were ready. to
All right.
leave.
So I'm going to stop you right there, and we're going to go through this pretty slowly. When you come down those steps, and I can show you the picture again if you want me to,
Yeah.
where exactly are you standing waiting on Juan and Sergio? You want me to zoom in on those steps?
Yeah, I was either on the bottom one or the second one. I know I was standing on them. I wasn't on the top no more.
Not on the ground, but standing on the steps.
Yes.
Which way are you facing?
At the time, I was still facing them, still looking up on the porch.
So if we're looking at this photograph and looking towards the house, would your back be to the road, or would the front of you be to the road?
The back, my back would be towards the road. I was looking that way.
Looking back towards the house?
Yes.
What's your attention focused on at this point?
I believe me and Richard were talking at the moment. We were saying something.
Where's he standing? Where's Richard Cantu standing?
He was maybe still on the top, but I don't know if he was on top or on the second, but he was already working his way down too.
You guys are heading out waiting on the brothers to
Yeah.
stop talking?
Yes.
Okay. What do you notice at that point?
I didn't notice none. I just heard
What'd you
somebody
hear?
yelling for us to lay down, give us your IDs
Where's that sound coming from?
from behind me at the moment when I was standing.
Could you tell where behind you it was coming from?
Not exactly, no.
What do you hear?
I just hear everybody lay down, give me your IDs.
Do you get your ID out?
No,
How come?
because as soon as I turned around, I heard a gunshot, and I was the first one to get hit.
Okay, we'll get to that in a second. When you're hearing lay down, where are you standing?
One of the steps, like I said, I don't remember.
Do you go back up to the porch itself, not the steps, but the actual porch at any point?
Yes.
When?
After I felt get hit, and then I went back on top,
Right.
and I laid.
Had
lay
you
there.
been shot prior to going back up the steps to the porch?
Yes.
Between the time that you hear lay down and you get shot, what is going on?
I just remember one of the guys saying, just listen to what he's saying, just lay down. And then we lay down.
From the time that you hear that voice saying lay down and you get shot, do you see who's behind you?
No,
Did you see anything of what was going on behind you?
no, because by the time I turned around, when I got shot, I could just see like a silhouette. I seen somebody coming, but I could not make out anything.
Could you tell how many people it was?
That's one for sure.
All
That's
right. Did you hear more than one voice?
No.
How many times did you hear the voice that was behind you?
Just coming up yelling. Like, I guess I lost consciousness pretty fast because I kind of blinked out.
All right, so before we get to that point, because we're going to get there, was the voice you heard male or female?
Male.
Could you tell anything else about that person
No.
other than the voice you heard was male?
No.
Did you get a description of what that person looked like, what that person was wearing, anything like that?
No.
When you turned around and I think you said you saw a silhouette or a shadow,
Just you can make out it was somebody there, but I couldn't really.
where
any details
did
on
you
it.
see that shadowy figure, whatever you could make out?
Oh, coming up on this left side of the blue car here already.
Okay, let me back it out just a little bit so we can see what we're talking about.
Yeah. Like pretty much coming down where that extension cord is.
And you're pointing to, if you want, there's a yardstick kind of in front of you on the railing. If you want to point to that photograph where you are able to make out that figure, you can stand up if you need to.
Just kind of in this area right here, walking toward us.
Had you heard yelling prior to seeing that figure at that location?
No.
What caused you to turn around then?
Oh, that's when he yelled. That's when I turned around.
That's what catches your attention?
Yes.
How long from the time, and give me times if you can, not, the exact date and time, but how long between when you hear that voice and you get shot? What's this time frame we're talking about?
10 seconds, maybe.
When you get shot, where are you shot?
Came through my arm, and then went through my side, came all the way out.
And you pointed to your right elbow.
Yes, right under my elbow, and it came out and went through my side.
So from right elbow out below your right elbow in your
Yeah.
forearm,
Yeah.
out the inside of your arm, and then did it re-enter your body?
Yes, it re-entered on my side and then came out the other side.
You mentioned a few minutes ago that you lost consciousness.
Yes.
Tell me what you remember from the time that you're shot up until you lose consciousness.
I remember laying down, and then I heard a couple footsteps, a couple more shots, and I mean, I was pretty fast. And next thing I know, I woke up, and the paramedics and cops were on the scene already.
Okay. While you're laying down, are you up on top of that porch?
Yes.
Are you able to see anything, kind of process anything?
No.
You said you heard voices. Were you able to make out anything that you heard?
No.
Just able to tell it was voices?
Yeah.
Were you taken to the hospital that evening?
Yes, I was flown to the hospital.
Not by ambulance, but by helicopter?
Yes.
And how long were you in the hospital?
Approximately 2 months.
Okay. May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yeah.
Cross-examination.
Good afternoon, sir. So I want to talk with you a little bit about your testimony. I think you did work that day for a period of time, right, before going to Rosemary, your
Yes.
cousin Rosemary's house?
Yes.
And she, I think you've already said, does live on the same street or right within walking distance of where you and your family live.
Yes.
You guessed, and that's okay. You were over at Rosemary's house for quite a while.
Yeah. I would say we got
4
there.
hours? I'm sorry, I didn't cut you off.
And we got there probably around 7. And
Hung out there for a while,
yes.
having fun with family and friends, right?
Yes.
I think you said you would estimate that you drank between 5 and 6 beers while at Rosemary's.
Yeah, maybe.
Juan Gatron was with you,
Yes.
and Richard Cantu was with you.
Yes.
And when you all leave, it's because you're going to go see Sergio,
Yes.
Juan's brother, right?
Yes.
Now, before you get to Ocean Mist, and that's a place I think you said you've never been before, right?
Yes.
You stop off at the Chevron and you buy more beer.
Yes.
I think a 12-pack.
I believe it was.
Then you get to Ocean Mist, and there are people there that you know and people there that you don't know.
Yes.
Okay. As far as Ocean Mist, I know you said you've never been there before, but you can agree with me that it's a very dark street, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so I'm going to show the picture that the government was showing to you, 5A. Okay? That's going to be a picture after police get there. Okay? You see that yellow light source that's right on the sidewalk by the picket fence on the left side of this picture?
Yes.
That was not there that night. Would you agree with me on that?
Yes.
We only see in this particular photo the front of the car that you arrived in.
Yes.
And it looks silver, but that's not really the color of the car. It's more like pewter,
Yeah, it was like that. Yeah.
like more the Buccaneer color helmet,
Yes.
as opposed to what may look silver, right?
Yes.
Richard Cantu, as far as you know, that's his car,
Yes.
and he was driving that night, right?
Yes.
So when you get there, well, first of all, Ocean Mist is kind of a small street. Would you agree with me on that from your memory?
Yes. I would.
Two cars can go up and down the street, but it's pretty tight. It's not like a true 2-lane road.
Well, I can recall that.
Fair enough. You can recall getting there, of course, with Juan. And you guys are going to go up, and you're going to see the people there. I'm going to point to the left right here. This is where a table would have been, right?
Yes.
Were there people sitting at that table around chairs when you arrived?
Yes.
And there were, I think you said you know Gonzalo Guevara.
Yes.
You certainly know Sergio.
Yes.
Did not know Jose before this night. Is
No.
that correct? Anybody in the Lucas family that lived there, did you know them?
I know nobody there.
All right.
Who lived there.
Yeah, did you? Fair enough. I should have phrased that question a little better. My bad. You knew nobody there because you'd never been there before, right?
Yes.
And also, you never, try that again. You later never found out, oh, this is where a friend of mine lives. I just did not know that, right?
No.
Okay. Do you recall what time you got there?
I do not.
All right. Do you recall when you got out there whether there was a small child on the porch?
I don't remember seeing a child.
Okay. You think you're there about a half an hour or so.
Yes.
Is that a fair estimate, right?
Yes.
And really, you're not watching a watch or keeping a time schedule, right?
I'm not.
I mean, tomorrow is going to be Thanksgiving. You're spending time with family. You're having some fun, right?
Yeah.
The 12-pack, people there are going to drink it, right?
Yeah.
Including you. You had, I think, one or two more, maybe.
It was actually going to stay there.
I was actually going to stay there.
Yeah.
I think you had one.
Yeah, I think I drank another one there.
Yeah. All told, you feel like maybe you had 6, 7, maybe 8 beers, if that.
I didn't count them. I would say.
Fair enough. I think what you said was, I wasn't drunk, but I was feeling it. I could feel the effect of the alcohol.
Yes.
Right? You said that you do not do drugs and did not use drugs that night, right?
I did not.
Yeah, I think you said one of the reasons is you've got a job that you get tested for, right?
Well, I just never been into them to begin with.
There you go. So you have, from what I understand, no direct knowledge about the use of marijuana or cocaine on that porch, right?
And they weren't doing it in front of me.
Right. Your testimony is if they, whoever they are, if they did it, you never saw it. Is that right?
Yes.
You've testified to what you remember, right?
Yes.
And as far as the shooting, up until the time where you think you may have passed out, you have a good memory of what happened, right?
I mean, yeah.
Fair memory?
Yes.
Right? Do you recall the number of people that were on the porch?
When the shooting actually happened.
Well, I'm going to get there in just a second. Let me see if I can set it up a little bit better. You would be there, of course. You're number one.
Yeah.
Okay, not in any particular order. Juan Guitron is there,
Yeah.
and Richard Cantu is there, right?
Yes.
And then you have Sergio there,
Yes.
and then you have Gonzalo there.
Yeah.
And then there's going to be this fella that is Jose Rodriguez, who you really do not know.
Yes.
Did I mention Gonzalo? I think I did mention Gonzalo. Daniel Beltran.
Yes.
Is that a name that you know?
Yeah, I do now.
Okay, did not know him that night. If I understand then, the people on the porch that you knew would be everybody except for Jose Rodriguez and Daniel Beltran.
Yes.
To your recollection, are all these people on the porch when you get there?
Yes, they were.
Do you recall who is sitting at that table?
The 4 that were there already. It was.
Go ahead. Sorry, I stepped on you. But finish your answer.
It was the 4 that were there already. It was Sergio, Daniel, Jose, and Gonzalo.
And to your knowledge, you did not see any drugs on that table. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Now, Juan and Sergio are going to start talking after a while, right?
Yes.
And you want to get back to Rosemary's.
Yeah.
And so what I understand from your testimony is you're walking down the steps and saying, hey, come on, let's go back,
Yes.
certainly nobody's arguing or anything, but Sergio and Juan are still talking, right?
Yes.
You are facing, when that happens, toward the house,
Yes.
not towards the street.
Yep.
Okay. Now, you never saw a car or van or truck or any type of vehicle coming down that street. Can we agree on that?
Yes.
And can we agree that where you are watching everybody else at the table? Can we agree on that?
Yes.
All right, so you would have Richard and Juan and Sergio and Daniel Beltran and Jose Rodriguez and Gonzalo Guevara all in your sight, right?
Yes.
And you specifically recall this, right?
Looking that way, yes.
Sure. And nobody ever says anything or calls out or says, hey, there's a car coming up and down the street, do they?
Not that I recall.
And nobody wonders what's going on with a car coming up and down the street, right?
Oh, no.
Right. You're watching them and you're paying attention to them because you want Juan and Richard to go back to Rosemary's, right?
Yes.
I don't think Rosemary, well, sorry, who cares what I think? From what I recall, Rosemary's house and Ocean Mist, not too far away from each other, but it is a driving distance.
Yeah.
I mean, I get that you can probably walk, but who wants to walk that distance? It's not like Rosemary's house and your family's house, which is close.
Yes.
So you need the car, right?
Yeah.
And you have no vehicle, right?
No.
And so you are paying attention to what's going on because Juan is talking to Sergio about coming to Rosemary's, right?
Yes.
They're talking about having more fun, doing more things, right?
I don't recall there's that conversation.
All right, fair enough. So you did not see, let me put it this way. You hear the voices, right, that you talked about. You heard voices?
Yes.
Okay. So when you, what first draws your attention is hearing what's being said behind you, right?
Yes.
Nothing about a car,
No.
van. Do you know how this person got there?
No.
Okay. You know, I think you've answered it. What type of car, anything like that, right? Did you hear loud rap music being played at any time?
Not that I recall.
Okay. There was no loud rap music, right?
I don't recall. No.
Okay. When this person came up, I think your statement is you were demanding identification. That's what they were doing, right?
Yes.
Any announcement that they were police?
Not that I recall.
Are you still looking at that table?
After the first yell? No, I turned around.
Right. And when you turned around, that's when you felt the shot.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to talk about that in just a second. You do not know where that person was when yelling occurred, do you?
No. I mean, I seen the silhouette, like I said, coming up by the car already, but I could not make out who he was or anything like that.
And it was just that silhouette or shadow that you saw.
Yes, it was that quick.
Okay. It was very quick, right?
For me, it was. Yes.
Yeah. It was within 1 second to 2 seconds that this occurred to you, right?
Yes.
Okay. 1 to 2 seconds and you're shot, right? Did you see anybody making any moves or hear anybody at the table making moves to maybe clean up what was on the table or say the cops are here, hide the stuff, anything like that?
No.
That did not occur.
No.
That's what you're saying, right?
It's my recollection, no.
Okay. Did you hear Gonzalo Guevara or Juan Guitron yell or say anything to the voices that you heard?
No.
Okay.
I don't recall.
Specifically, You never heard anything like, hey, chill out, or who the F are you, or going any argument back and forth, right?
I don't recall that.
Right. You were told to get out your ID,
Yes.
and everybody was.
Yes.
And you did not get out your ID because really you never had the chance. It
Yes.
was that quick.
Yes.
And the shot was loud.
Yes.
Okay? You could tell nothing about the height or the weight of what the shadow or silhouette was or are, right?
No.
Okay? You do not even know whether it was one, two, or more people. You just at least heard one voice at one point, right?
Yes.
Okay? You did take a look at the gun or a quick look, but you really could not make anything out about
Yeah,
the gun,
it's-
right?
Yes.
The shot was loud.
Yes.
And you recall hearing, of course, that one shot. Hear echoes.
I don't recall echoes.
You were not able to see anything about what this person was wearing,
No.
or whether there was anybody with that person.
No.
Not even able to tell male, female, anything like that, right?
Sounded like a male. But
Right. The voices.
yeah,
that-
the voice sounded like a male.
Right. So that would be an assumption, as reasonable as that may be, but nothing to prove that up, right? Or
yeah.
confirm that.
Yes.
Okay. May I have a moment? Yes. I have nothing further. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
You have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
No redirect. It's released.
And released by the defense or subject to recall?
We released him.
Excellent. Sir, you may step down. You may be released as a witness at this time. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I believe it is. It is 4:30, so we're going to go ahead and get you home, as I said, before 5 o'clock today. We will come back tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. and we will turn to the state to call their next witness. In the meantime, you are not to do any research related to this case. You are not to talk about this case amongst yourselves or with anyone else, and you are to avoid all reports of this case outside of this courtroom in social media, print media, and any other television media, and anything else, way, shape, or form that may be about this case. Please have a safe trip home. We'll see you back in the morning. All rise for the jury. Jury has exited. Everyone may be seated, and the door is now closed. So I think that was the right call. If we started the medical examiner now, I think we'd be here well past 5:30 probably. But that's perfect timing. Any decision on? I was watching the entire time, seat number 3, number 71, and he appeared to be absolutely fine and paying attention to all of the testimony of the last witness. Anything from either side?
I think one thing real quickly, you spoke to Mr. Grant about it. Somehow in
Oh, yes.
Ms. Patel's photos and Mr. Cashwell's photos, I somehow skipped over State's Exhibit 4, which is an aerial photo. I don't believe that defense had any objection to us just stipulating and moving that into evidence.
I'm just throwing it up if you need to see it. It's an aerial. We don't care.
No objection? All right, so it'll be admitted. Did you already show it to them, or that wasn't shown to them?
I think the reason we forgot to admit it is because I may have just skipped over this one when I was going through the aerials, but I wanted to make sure, because this was in the stack that Mr. Grant was sitting over there and we were showing each
Right.
one, that this got formally
So it
admitted
probably
into
wasn't
evidence.
used. It doesn't matter. I mean,
I
it's
don't
in
think-
evidence now, but
Right.
all right. No issues from the defense, right?
No, sir.
All right, it's in evidence now. It's 4.
4, yes.
4's in evidence. Anything else?
Does the record reflect that the juror survived my cross-examination? Is that what I hear the court saying?
That way, if it's what you heard, it was not my intent. But now that you've mentioned it, that is absolutely true. Yes, yes.
Just making sure.
It was a shorter cross-examination. So maybe it's the longer cross-examination that are the problems for the juror or jurors. So, file that away. All right. I want to thank you all. it really is moving pretty smoothly, which I appreciate. So,
Judge, we have spoken to the prosecution. We're going to continue to speak
and I appreciate
about
that.
about our schedule.
No. I mean, communication between the sides is absolutely important.
So I think I know that we are trying to tentatively schedule our 2 experts, one for next Friday and the last one for the following Monday, which I think would be the 20th. That's what we're trying to do.
Okay.
And those are my most critical ones because, they're all over the place.
Absolutely.
And it's
Absolutely.
hard to get them pinned. And so I'm pinning them down to those dates now.
Okay.
I'm going to try to.
All right.
And so I'll do that this afternoon.
And State, you know better than anyone else. You think that that's reasonable?
Judge, I understand. I thought we would be farther along than anticipated. I had originally thought we might be able to rest on Monday. I no longer think that. I am hopeful that we may be able to rest next week, midweek or Thursday, but if there's any overlap and he needs to call his expert on Friday, we obviously will allow that.
Well, but let me ask you
We
this.
have one expert coming on Friday, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
And then another one on Monday.
But I understand that we may be
We're-
falling behind. But
Yes.
if you originally expected to arrest on Monday, is there something that happened today that makes you think that you're not going to arrest by Friday?
no, Your Honor. I just know, a lot of witnesses every day we had hoped to get on that we have not.
Yeah.
So when we were kind of projecting out that Monday date, obviously that's no longer.
And that's fine.
So we're slowly trickling past the Monday.
Not a problem. I mean, it sounds only now. And we can reevaluate later. We've
Yes.
still got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of this week to
Yes.
evaluate each day.
Yes.
But it sounds like even if you rest on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that's
They'll be fine.
your case by Friday, and you can call your expert
And
on
that's what
Friday.
we need to get our experts to a date certain because at least, one of them is traveling to different sites to testify. So
Even though we've fallen behind some, it sounds like we're still
Yeah.
well within. But we'll reevaluate at the end of tomorrow, just like we're doing right now, to see.
And if for some reason she indicated that, she is not done by Friday, and I need to get my expert
They've
in on
indicated
Monday,
they'd have no objection to it,
they're right.
and I have no problem with that. All right, I don't think.
But we
that'll
still
be-
may meet that. I mean, we still may rest before then.
I hear you.
Okay.
Anything else? Anything from the state?
No, Your Honor.
Have a nice evening, and we'll try to get started. They straggled in. We were waiting for one, I think, this morning, but we'll try to start at 9. And I don't think we take too many breaks. We sometimes have to take extra breaks, but we're moving along. I'm comfortable. Thank you all. Have a great evening.